Hello Stings, in this video we are looking at factoring the greatest common factor. To find the greatest common factor of two numbers using the calculator, you go to the math key, and that is located below the alpha key. When you push the math key, you will get a menu. The second item on the menu says NUM for number. Go ahead and arrow to the right to pull up that set of options. And if you arrow all the way down to option number 9, you'll see GCD with a open parentheses. When you choose that, we'll be able to enter in the numbers. When we enter the numbers in, we're going to separate them by a comma, which is above the 7 key. So if we choose option 9, we get the GCD open parentheses. We enter our numbers, say 12 and 20, separated by a comma, and then close up that parentheses and hit enter, and the calculator will tell you that the greatest common factor of these two numbers is 4. To find the greatest common factor of a common variable, we use the variable with the smallest exponent. And here we have an example of x to the 4th plus 2x to the 3rd plus x. If we look at x to the 4th, it has 4 x's being multiplied. X to the 3rd has 3 x's being multiplied, and if all we had was x to the 4th and x to the 3rd, then these are the three that they would have in common, x to the 4th having an extra one. And of course 3 is smaller than 4. But we have 3 different variables that we're having to look at here, 3 different variable terms. All of the variables are in x. So we have x to the 1st, x to the 3rd, x to the 4th. They only have one x in common because that's the maximum number that the smallest exponent is going to give us. So that x gets pulled out front, and in parentheses we're going to have the 3 terms that when each of these terms is multiplied by x, we're going to get x to the 4th. You have several ways that you can look at this. You can say x to the 4th divided by x gives me x to the 3rd. 2x cubed divided by x gives me 2x squared. And x divided by x gives me 1. Or you can say, what do I multiply by x to get x to the 4th? I need 4 x's multiplied together. I have one of them. That means I need 3 more. For 2x to the 3rd, I already have one of the x's, so I need 2 more, and I need the 2. And I already have the x, so I just multiply it by 1. If there are 3 terms in your problem, there must be 3 terms inside the parentheses. So let's do a couple of examples. In example 1, we are looking at 3w squared plus 7w. The GCF of 3 and 7 is simply 1. The GCF of w squared and w is w. 1 times w is w, so our greatest common factor is w. What's missing to get the 3w squared is 3w, because w times 3w is w squared. What's missing with the 7w is just the 7. So this is our factored form of 3w squared plus 7w. Let's look at another example. 12h squared minus 20. We already found the greatest common factor for these two numbers above, so we said the GCF of 12 and 20 was 4. Oops, that 20 should have an h on there, so it's 12h squared minus 20h. And the greatest common factor of h squared and h is h. So the greatest common factor for these is a total of 4h. So 4h comes out front. 4 times 3 gives me 12. H times h gives me h squared. This is minus, so this is minus. 4 times 5 gives me 20, and I already have an h, so that means I don't need another one. And we are done. So 4h times the quantity 3h minus 5 is the factored form of 12h squared minus 20h. Okay, example 3. We have 6 into the 4th minus 9 into the 3rd minus 12 n squared. To find the greatest common factor of 3 numbers, You put the first 2 into the calculator, you're going to get a greatest common factor of 3. You use that 3 and the 12, and you actually do end up with 3 as your greatest common factor for 6, 9, and 12. We look at the greatest common factor of n to the 4th, n to the 3rd, and n squared. The one of these that has the smallest exponent is n squared, so my greatest common factor of these 3 is n squared. So I take 3n squared and I pull it out front, and I open my parentheses. Because I had 3 terms here, I need to have 3 terms in the parentheses. So this gives me 2n squared, because 3n squared times 2n squared is 6n to the 4th. The 3n times the 3n squared gives me 9n to the 3rd power. And then 4 times 3n squared is 12n squared. This was a minus, so this is a minus. This is a minus, so this is a minus. And there's your factored form for 6n to the 4th minus 9n to the 3rd minus 12n to the 2nd. Final example, I'm going to use 4x squared y minus 8x y squared. So we look at the greatest common factor of 4 and 8, and that's going to give us a 4. We look at the greatest common factor of x squared and x, and that's going to be an x. And we look at the greatest common factor of y and y squared, and that's going to be y, because y has the smallest exponent. So we put these together as 4x y. What do I multiply by 4xy to get 4x squared y? I multiply by an x. What do I multiply 4xy by to get 8xy squared? 2y. And this is the factored form for 4x squared y minus 8xy squared. So this is how you find the greatest common factor and factor a polynomial.